Hey guys, you're watching BTech. I'm Basil, and if you had between £180 and £220 and you kind of wanted to buy a phone, which of these ones would I recommend? The Xperia XA made by Sony or the Huawei made Honor 6X? The Honor 6X has the best camera for the price in my opinion, whereas the Xperia XA has the best design. Just look at it, it looks fantastic. Bezel the size, oh yeah, sign me up. But would I recommend you spend your money on it over the Honor 6X or vice versa? Watch this video to find out. But before I jump into the real comparison, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe. It's how you'll stay on top of everything that we do. Right, let's kick off with screen. You've got different size screens from the offset. 5.5 inches on the Honor 6X versus 5 inches on the Xperia XA. The Xperia XA is narrower as well, with very, very slight bezel, as I mentioned earlier, and it feels beautiful, really, really good in the hand. It's nice and long, so it kind of is probably going to be insight as to how the LG G6 will feel based on the rumors going around. I love the XA design. It wins this round hands down, but I'm not gonna kind of count the Honor 6X out. It has some really nice advantages, such as the rear mounted fingerprint scanner. Very, very cool ergonomic touch right there that also supports gestures as well. Big screen, so better if you have huge hands, but just not as polished a design as the Xperia XA. You've got bottom firing speakers, mono speakers across both, and micro USBs with 3.5mm headphone jacks up at the top. The Xperia XA does have a key advantage in the form of a physical camera button. Around the back, cameras 13 megapixels on the Xperia XA versus 12 megapixels and a secondary camera on the Honor 6X. Now let's talk about the screens. They're both LCDs, IPSs, 720p at 5 inches versus Full HD at 5.5 inches. The Honor 6X is the sharper of the two. It is the better screen of the two generally. Both are slightly washed out off angle, but I really don't mind the fact that this is only 720p. When you get really, really close to it, you don't think to yourself, this is such a bad experience. Oh no, it just lacks color integrity off angle, and that is what really, really hampers it. Inside the screens, it's Android, and they're very different takes on Android. It's Sony's user interface, complete with applications tray, versus Emotion UI 4. They're both running Android 6, though they should hopefully get Nougat soon. I know the Honor 6X should in the next couple of weeks, because the beta's already rolled out. But the Xperia XA has also seen Nougat land on its brothers, the Xperia X, the X Compact, and the XZ, suggesting, or I'm hoping, that it isn't too far off for this thing. Applications tray 2-tier, very, very stock, versus a not so stock applications tray on the Honor 6X. The Honor 6X has, notifications tray. The Honor 6X has no applications tray, but you do have some advanced features, such as pinch out to change transitions, etc. You can customize your home screen layout, and you can reverse pinch to access a hidden applications tray if you're a little bit more dexterous than I was right there. When it comes to the power under the hood of these things, they're also pretty different. Kirin 655 processor on here, and it benchmarks like a champ, plays games like a champ. Really, really, the Honor 6X feels kind of like owning a flagship. I wouldn't mind using it as my daily driver, between the camera and the performance generally. The Xperia XA, not so much, mainly down to the fact that it has 2GB of RAM paired with that MediaTek Helio P10 processor. And I'll come on to the other point that really, really lets it down a little bit later. But I found that it did tend to slow down, specifically when I've been using it for a long time around the camera. Firing up and loading up the actual picture that you take and zooming in is nice and quick when you first get the phone. But after a few weeks, months, it can take up to 10 seconds to open the camera and take a photo, which just isn't great. Speaking of those cameras, you have 8 megapixel front-facing cameras on both, or front-firing cameras, and around the back of the Honor 6X is a 12 megapixel with a secondary dual camera. What's really great about that is the fact that you can do cool stuff like take wide aperture mode shots, so I can blur out the foreground, blur out the background after the fact. The second sensor captures depth information, and that means I can retrospectively change the picture that I take, which is sweet. As for the Sony setup, it's a 13 megapixel rear camera. Both have flashes. The Sony one has a really anemic manual mode. The Huawei camera UI in general is significantly richer across the board. By anemic, I mean there's no shutter speed control and and there's no things like manual focus, whereas you've got a full suite of applications on the Honor 6X. When it comes to the other connections on board, it's pretty standard across both 4G, GPS, NFC contact points around the back. We've got Wi-Fi, like I said, micro USB, neither has a USB Type-C. And generally multimedia across both is also hampered by that bottom firing speaker, but everything else, the screens look decent. What really is going to set these two apart in the final leg of the race is the battery. The battery on the Xperia XA is only 2,300 milliamps. I'm going to say that again, only 2,300 milliamps. Whoever you are, Sony, Samsung, Apple, Huawei, never make phones with 2,300 milliamp batteries with 5-inch screens, please, because it's really, really, really going to hurt, especially if it runs Android on a MediaTek P10 processor, which isn't super, super efficient. This does not last a full day, and that really hurts me because just look at it, it's beautiful. I take it around, I want it to last a full day, and it just won't, unfortunately. The Honor 6X, however, will last a full day, 3,340 milliamp battery, 1,140 milliamps more than the Xperia XA. It's really, really gonna come down to what you value. If you value design and don't use your phone like a crazy man like I do, I think the design just speaks for itself. It truly, truly does. But if you really value your camera, you really, really value your battery like I do, and don't mind good design, if not mind-blowing design, then it is Honor 6X all the way. And that, my friends, has been a comparison. We should see the update to the Xperia XA at MWC this year. But if you've got any questions about this in the meantime, or this, let us know in the comments section below. Fire them in the comments section below. If you like this video, click like the channel, subscribe. It's how you're gonna stay on top of everything that we do. Thanks for watching BTech.